anybody has got a copy, we have one.
Microphone's on. I could try that one. I hear the other one. That's on.
Can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay, great. Thanks for coming out tonight, everybody. We have some frequently asked questions up here. If anybody doesn't have a copy yet, try to get them out to people. Feel free to come up. I'm going to put them off to the side. So this is a public information session, opportunity for you folks to ask questions and for us to be able to give you some answers as opposed to a selectors meeting. So we've got the questions passed out. I think we probably just want to start taking taking comments or questions from the audience. Anyone? An update? Scott, would you do an update? That's how things are going. Well, I mean, okay, so I'll give you a quick update from our last meeting. At the last meeting, the selectmen's meeting, we agreed to raise the daily rate, the hourly rate from $3 to $10 an hour, and we agreed to change the hours from 8 to 8 at East Wharf and West Wharf, and from 9:30 to 8 at the Surf Club. We also agreed that we're going to go for a daily charge, a minimum charge on a daily basis of $50 a day during the week and $75 a day on weekends and holidays. For non-residents. For non-residents. But other than that, our beach pass system hasn't changed.
The hourly rate went from $3 to $10.
Right.
And a minimum, correct? And
Sorry?
a minimum. And a minimum of 5 hours.
No, there's no minimum. On the hourly charge, there's no minimum of 5 hours. What we're doing is we're changing the hourly charge to a daily charge. So that'll be the daily minimum for non-residents.
Whenever you come in.
So the change from 3 to 10 was a stopgap fix until we got the daily rate in. Once the daily rate is in at the 50 and the 75, the hourly rate goes away.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's what it was saying, but it wasn't clear.
But just to be clear, because we've had some questions, residents can still buy their guests a daily pass for $10 per car.
That's cool.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
all the things that we had last year, the $40 for the annual pass, $20 for the second car, $10 for seniors, $10 for veterans, $10 for a day pass, all the things for the residents have stayed the same. The way we've delivered them have changed a little bit, but all the details of that have stayed the same. What we've done is we've adjusted what used to be a $25 per day minimum and a $40 per day on the weekend is now going to become $50 a day and $75 on the weekend. Yeah.
So do they collect that at the gate?
No, no money changes hands at the gate. Excuse me. You can go online to buy passes. You can buy them at the beach and rec office over at Town Hall, or you can buy them down at the Surf Club office.
that's,
And you can buy the daily passes at the Surf Club office also.
the hourly, and hopefully we'll move into the daily flat rate. That's all through the Passport parking app.
So that they want the license plate?
Right.
Is there any follow-up if people don't pay?
Oh yeah, they get a ticket, and tickets are enforceable.
Start at $40.
Yeah, I was talking to the gate person, and they said that on Saturdays, I talked to the gate person on Saturday and the office personnel on Monday, because they said that there was free parking on the grass at Strong Field when there's an event.
Okay, I think what they're talking about is for a sporting event where somebody's, like if Little League has a game and they're bringing people in from out of town,
Yeah?
we don't make them pay, we let them park in that lot, and then they have to leave after the game.
Okay, so it's for softball games and people coming in from out of town to see somebody at a ball game.
Right.
Okay.
Actually, there's another instance. Last Saturday, there was actually a wedding at the surf club, and there were people coming in, and at that time, there were no allowance had been made in how we were going to deal with them. So we had to let them come in and park to set up, and guests started arriving. And so that is another instance where events will also have to be dealt with in terms of parking.
Yeah, so they can park anywhere, or they have to go over the grassy field, or?
They were told to park wherever they could find a space.
But for the sporting events, the direction is they have to go into the grass,
Okay.
the grass section. and
I
or
went
they-
down
or they
and
run the
checked,
risk of
there's no
getting
sign
ticketed.
that says so.
That's right.
I went and
Even for-
checked, there's
Shane,
no
is that for
sign
Little League
that says
games
so.
too?
Is that,
Even
that's
for
true,
Little League
yeah,
games?
with the new system, the answer is yes.
I don't think people know that.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
And I have friends who
that's
came
supposed
in
to
from out of
be
town to watch a
communicated
softball
Okay,
game.
let's just have one person at a time.
They came to watch a softball game and they just parked anywhere because they had no signs that said that they had to go over to the field. And so they're, they're gonna get a ticket?
That's supposed to be communicated by the leagues.
She said that they were playing
No,
a softball
no.
game and nobody told them.
That, like, Little League, youth soccer, youth lacrosse, they are supposed to communicate to visiting teams
Mhm.
and the home teams, if the people don't have a seasonal pass,
Right,
that they're supposed to park in the grass lot,
okay.
which is
Apparently they
adjacent
didn't
to our
get that.
maintenance building.
Have the presidents been notified? of this
Yes,
board
that
at
was,
this point?
that was discussed at a field committee meeting.
All right, good.
Okay.
Yes.
I am going to address something that most people have not talked about. My hair is getting gray, I'm getting older, and so I go to the beach 6 months a year, and I swim every day, at least an hour if not. But driving has become a little bit difficult, I still drive. Carrying my beach chair in the umbrella is not the best, etc., etc. So for me, what's very important is that when I get into the surf club, the parking on the left not be occupied by everybody else that doesn't have a reason as I do to use it. The second thing is, I have a shift car, nobody knows how to drive that thing. So there is not a friend of mine, should I not be able to see well and drive, that can drive me with my car. So I would like all of us to think of a system, so, given a reason. Also, I go to swim at 8 in the morning, there's nobody. I want a friend with me, because I swim, and I don't want to be alone at the beach.
Are you going to the surf club?
Yes,
We don't start monitoring the lot until after 9:30.
I know, sometimes I go at 9:30, I go early when
Right.
there is no rush. So, we may not solve this tonight, but what I would like us to do is find a way, so that if one day nobody can drive my shift car, okay? Or a friend, friends are nice, you have to give them something in compensation.
We do have caretaker slash non-driver, senior non-driver hang
Okay.
tags
Oh,
that you can buy for $10. And it has your name on it, it's a hang
but I
tag.
can buy it for the year at $10
Yep.
every time I go.
Nope, $10 for the season.
Thank you. And make sure that the parking, the easy parking, because when I have to walk with a beach chair and blah, 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 the one that's relatively easy is the one that's
We
important.
try to have our staff park out in the gravel lot, but we do have programs at the surf club building, where people tend to park because it's closer to the activity. So, that's usually, it's 9 o'clock in the morning to 10, where they come
At
in.
any rate, I can buy my ticket, so that's good. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I have one question and one statement. Where does the money go if the people pay their tickets when they get them for not having their license plate registered with the town of Madison?
Where does the money
Who
go?
gets the fine?
Town of Madison.
Oh, the town gets it?
Yes.
Okay. And the other statement is, I actually go to the beach about 4 times a week. And I was reading that sign that we have posted. Okay? I don't see anywhere in that sign where we explain our parking situation, where your car has to be registered in order for you to have free access to parking. And if I were an outsider and I would park there, not have a notification, and I got a ticket, I would claim entrapment for an out-of-towner. We're not giving them the information that they should have, and give them a warning. Say, warning, you will be tagged unless your car is registered.
We are going to be developing the signs, but everything's been, we're moving around. And once I make the sign,
Okay, so you have plans.
once I make a sign, it's like, I gotta make sure that we're steady on what we're doing. Like,
Because I mean, I don't think that would be fair to outside people coming to Madison. I mean, because I know I also go to the Clinton Beach, and when I pull into Clinton, if there's somebody in the guardhouse, I just say, sorry, I'm not a resident, I turn around and come right back out. But if there's nobody there, I just go right on through. And people remember that's how it used to be in Madison. So, fine, you're working on
yeah, we're working on,
That's great.
I just don't wanna go and get signs made and then have to call the company back and say, oops.
But I think there needs to be some temporary signs.
We do have the hourly, it says effective July 15th, hourly rate is going $10 per hour, and visit Passport. And the sign is on the gate guard hut, and we have the Passport app sign there with the lot number at each location.
Here's for example, and I'm sure this doesn't cover the whole thing. I went there last week with a friend, had a temporary, guest pass for their car. There was nobody at the gate, put it on the windshield, and she almost got a ticket because it was empty. Now, I looked for a sign to tell me what to do. There was no sign to tell me what to do. And then I talked to the people that almost gave her the ticket, and they said, well, we're not going, it was a convertible, and it was in the front dashboard so that you could see it. They said, well, we can't pull, go into the car. Okay, fair enough, but if there's not a sign that says something and they're planning on giving a ticket, you just have to think through all of the different.
Did she have a daily hang tag?
Yes,
Okay.
but it wasn't filled out because I was like,
Right.
the people that are gonna be checking them are gonna fill them out, so here's one.
Right.
So it's just an example of a missed scenario.
And we know it's an inconvenience, but at the moment, we're trying to hire more staff, because after the last meeting, so we're conducting interviews, to try to get more staff, so we can have staff at the gates to handle those types of things. Right now, the boards, both the Board of Selectmen and the Beach and Recreation Commission members have volunteered to man the gates, and they were manning them last weekend.
Mhm.
So-
Yeah.
And I just want to add that I was there from 12 to 5 on Saturday, and it was one of the first things I realized, who validates these if we're not standing in the booth,
Right.
and whether there needs to be signage to say, maybe we direct people to the surf club office.
That's what you have to do,
wherever.
I mean,
But
for
I
right
think that there
now.
were not really clear instructions.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you, and I even think that it would be nice, we did have little printed out notes that we could give to out-of-town people so that they had a little bit more instruction. But I think it would just be good to have some kind of a brochure saying, welcome to the surf club, here's our new parking. I just think there needed to be more signage and information. I totally
What
agree.
about the other two beaches? You talk surf club,
That's
surf club,
true.
surf club.
All feature.
I think the biggest potential for, what was the word, entrapment, misunderstanding bad public relations is at West Wharf. For people, they drive in from out of state, out of town, there's all this parking at 5 o'clock, straight ahead. There's no enforcement, obviously, at least at this time, but they innocently park there. And that has to be.
I think
Because we have to think, it's not just the surf club, it's in particular West Wharf, where we get a lot of bad will and bad feelings from people who want to feel welcome in Madison, not like they're being taken advantage of.
My name is Vince Dusich, the USSICH. I live on 28 White Birch Road. I'm on the commission. Thank you, Tom, and the board, putting me on it as a senior representative, if you will. I didn't like that designation, but that's a good designation. It was actually the impetus of putting together the adult pickleball league, which my wife and I put together, that got me here.
How did I know pickleball was gonna come out?
Yeah, exactly, right. So if any of you are interested, I'm the guy you want to see. My point is that's a discussion that the Beach and Rec Commission that I'm on is going to be having, is whether or not we need eyes on, whether the system works or doesn't work. That's another discussion. But do we need more eyes on people coming into our beach? And do we need to watch and look and see in this day and age? We need more eyes on, I think, on people coming into our beaches and what that's all about. So there's going to be some discussion on that, on whether or not there's going to be, going to have folks at the guard gates to see what's going on. Because by the time somebody comes into the park, it may be too late. So we're going to be looking at that. We're going to be investigating that, I promise you. So just to be assured that that's not going to be something that we're going to be just ruled out, not going to happen. So if they'll let me continue to be on this commission, I seem to be rolling in a different direction sometimes because I'm a little older and I've seen things that they haven't seen yet. So
I thought it was because you're pickled most of the
yes,
time.
I'm pickled most of the time. Yes.
How much? I just had a little question on the lifeguards. My son is a lifeguard over at Hamden. He was hired this year. And I understand that there is a lot of difficulty getting lifeguards because the state also was having a lot of difficulty. But this year they certified the kids and they made them sign a contract to make sure that they work at Hamden. So I was wondering, it's probably too late for this year, but maybe next year you might think about that. I think it's like $350 a certification. We haven't had lifeguards for 2 years, so we must have something in the budget, a little extra to take care of that. You've also, the kids, if they become certified and dedicated to the as a staff, they probably would just come back. You wouldn't have to recertify. Another idea is, I'm not sure how the search was really done. Is it just on the Madison website? Is it on other job search engines? Because most of the kids are from out of town at Hamden. Not too many Madison kids there. They're all doing other things, internships, I guess. Also another idea I had was networking with high school coaches, not only in Madison, but in the surrounding towns.
Scott, why don't you comment on
We did post on our website. We reached out to area departments to see if they had extras. We did go to the colleges to see if they did. The one caveat with the state is some of the guards that go through that process, it's my understanding that the state, hold the certification. So if a guard, which we had last year, wanted to come over to our beach, they could not get the certification card back.
Right.
Which in our eyes, as far as staff level, we feel that's wrong.
Yeah. But I think in order to compete for the lifeguards, you have to be
I agree, but I mean, as you know, the state is still short. They have 22 swim areas in the state, and only, according to the latest, was 14 of which of those swim areas are still unguarded. And the rest are only guarded Wednesday through Sunday. So they're not guarding a couple of days a week. And we had gone to not guarding Monday, Tuesday, because those are our slowest days. But the guards are not coming through. There was a case down lower Connecticut where a guard missed a kid in a pool, and it was not a lapse of judgment. It just happened, and he's getting sued. He's lost everything to go. So a lot of the young people don't want to take that risk because we're in a very litigious society
Yeah.
where it's not the kid's fault, not the parents' fault, it's our fault.
Yeah.
So they see that and ask, it's not Baywatch.
Right, it's-
You know,
it's got-
it's
can I
not
just-
Baywatch.
It's
Can
not
I just
easy,
interject
right.
for a sec? So just to sort of build on what you guys are talking about, I think we have a tremendous opportunity here in town. We've got a couple of really good high school swim teams. My daughter's actually on one, and I know I see a couple of parents out here. I would love to see Beach and Rec coordinate in some way, shape, or form with our swim team coaches and the kids there and get them out there. I guarantee, I already know 5 or 6 of those kids that would be happy to raise their hand if asked to get involved and to be certified. So I think we got to be a little more proactive in terms of idea generation here.
So I think, just to add to that, so I think Pam, at our last commission meeting, Pam Green, did a great job, had done some research and talked to some of the other, some other clubs in the area that had lifeguards in their process. So I think that is a topic that we know it's an important topic. This is not something that you can do halfway. So we've got to make sure that the approach we take is the right approach.
Yeah.
But it is something that we're continuing to look at. And
I mean, also, like, I don't want to put it totally on you guys. I mean, I would like to volunteer if anybody needs help in doing anything like that, you know, recruiting lifeguards or whatever. And I think maybe the town has to start stepping up with some volunteerism for the surf club. And if that is desired by the board. I already got a full-time job.
Like, we are in fact, the commission, looking at that. I mean, that's not a subject that we decided we're not gonna have lifeguards. We are in fact opening it up to saying maybe we should have lifeguards. So that's an open question that we need to investigate and do some real solid homework on and give you an answer, give the community an answer of why we don't have lifeguards. Not because, just for some reason that we couldn't improve them. So we need to get to the bottom of that answer and give you a better and more definitive answer and try to do it. I mean, if it's possible.
Can I just interject, because, sorry, I'm on the end here, so it's hard to jump in. I just think in the absence of lifeguards, and I don't know if it's the staff or what, but I've heard a lot of people come up to me personally and talk about some of the sort of rules that we have at our beach being broken at this point, like dogs at the beach, like floaties are now out in the water, like lewd acts happening in the water. There are things that are happening that should not be happening at our beach, which then ultimately create an unsafe environment for our children who are watching all that, and we're not modeling the right behavior. So I guess the question is if not lifeguards this year, do we have an opportunity to really step up here and do something different with our staff to ensure the safety of the public?
I think these meetings have been great, by the way, if I can just interject on that. I think these meetings, over the last meeting as well, have been absolutely a breath of fresh air to all of us in terms of what we're hearing. You know, we've heard you, and we need to do a better job, I think, of getting better questions and quite frankly, better answers. So we can be.
I'm asking that question though. Did you,
No, I
is there some-
understand. I'm just saying, these are good meetings to have.
They are great meetings, but is there an answer to my question? Are we looking at this year from a safety standpoint?
I think that we have an opportunity to start, and we need to start now to plan for next year. And I think that I also got to meet, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking on your name, Mike. Docker, that's it, Docker. I got to meet Mike Docker, who is down there directing the summer staff, and he was a wealth of information, and I think he has some really good ideas that we could also draw on to try to address some of these problems. And I think getting back to the volunteer idea, one of the things that I realized in the past few days is that every one of our other park facilities, whether it's Bower or Rockland Preserve or Salt Meadow Park, they all have their own advisory committees. Surf Club is the only one that does not have a volunteer advisory committee. And so much of the beach and rec, so much of our resources is really driven by volunteers, and maybe we need to think about a committee just focused on Surf Club.
Mike, can you answer, Scott?
Yeah.
As to what we're doing now?
What we're doing right now is I've got 6 applications. I'm gonna be calling people tomorrow. And those are gonna not to be for lifeguards. We don't have any.
Extra staff. Yeah.
This is extra staff, so that way we can staff the guard gates and still watch the beach. Right now, staffing the guard gates takes away from monitoring the beach almost entirely because we weren't supposed to be working in the guard houses at all this year. Right now, I have 4 staff on during the day, and those staff are split between the surf club and East and West Fork to monitor the parking lots and walk the beaches. So we were hoping to get, I think, at least 4 more. We could use all 6 actually, but I've been looking at hiring 4 to get us through the summer. So that way we can staff the guard gates more effectively. And then that will cover the point of seeing who's
So
coming
Mike,
out.
so staffing the guard gates is gonna be a permanent thing then?
Well, I think we were mandated to do 8 to 8 in some places, at last Thursday's meeting.
Staffing the guard gates on East Wharf, West Wharf, and the Surf Club is now gonna be a mandatory thing, going forth on the system.
Well, if we can get all 4 people, but then we're still short-staffed. We need 6 people just to be in those guard gates.
Now, the question is that part of is part of the plan, part of the parking plan, as we've discussed, to staff the gates?
I think as a result of that meeting we had last week, people were asking for us to, have a presence there. And I know when I was at West Fork over the weekend, people pull into West Fork and they think that it's parking for the hotel. So I had to explain to a lot of people who were coming for weddings and for other things that the hotel has free valet parking. Please go park there. And this is beach parking.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. I think that's what we should do, is have permanent parking.
Yeah,
But I don't know, I didn't know that was part of the parking system.
To implement
It is?
that
Okay.
in an effective manner, we have to have 6 people on staff for those guard gates. And that there's a shift that runs from 8 in the morning to 5, and then we would need to have a few extra to another 6 to get us to 8 o'clock at that point. And then at 8 o'clock, then the gates would be empty. And then we have extra staff still at the surf club for 11.
Do you need more than one person at a guard? Because I volunteer at a guard gate on
Well, so
Sunday, and I was.
if we have let's talk about East Wharf for a second. So if we have 2 at that guard gate, 1 stays in the gate, 1's patrolling the beach.
Oh, okay.
And the one that's patrolling the beach would be in the parking lot ticket.
So it's basically 2 per beach.
So we need
East
2,
and west.
we need 2 per beach minimum, and then we need floaters to go through and break them and move them around a little bit.
So I was also at the beach, just a quick comment. I was with Pam and I was with Mike Docker, who, by the way, does a killer job. He was out there, I saw him getting yelled at, I saw him getting chased. It was not a glorious position.
Who was chasing Mike?
I'm not going there. But I was really impressed with he and his team, and I saw Scott shepherding people between beaches. I think they're doing the best they can with minimal staff. I think we as the Board of Selectmen need to step up and support in any way we can with additional staff to ensure that our beaches are safe and secure. So,
Maybe you need some volunteers as a staff.
well, I already signed you up, Frank. You're already in.
Has there been any thought about going to the senior center and asking seniors to do those positions? Because I think there's a lot of seniors in town who would love to have something to do. And I mean, even to post
Awesome
something
idea.
here.
No, we have not.
Excellent.
That's a great idea.
Are you volunteering?
Oh, are you saying I'm a senior? You're out of here.
Vince, he's going to be a lifeguard.
Yeah, I thought you were a lifeguard. Mary, your mother.
I have no idea if this is feasible, but have you guys thought of reaching out to Boy Scout and Girl Scout organizations within a decent driving distance of Madison and saying, hey, do you guys have any 18-year-olds who are strong swimmers we'll pay to certify them, but this is how they can work toward their Eagle badge.
Perfect.
To volunteer as lifeguards.
Great idea. Great idea.
Right?
I do.
And also, if you said that you would pay for the certification with a guarantee that they would work the position for the entire year, you know, and to give them an incentive, because for a young person to put out any kind of money to get a job, you're not going to want. So if maybe the incentive would be, we will certify you, but you must commit.
So, can we get Mr. Henneberry? He's been out waiting for like an hour to ask a question.
How much is the ticket for, say, an out-of-town, someone from Durham or someone from Guilford or Clinton or whatever? What is the ticket? What's the cost?
Currently, it's $40,
Yeah?
and if it's not paid within 14 days, it increases to 80.
Well, that's cheaper than,
So
that's cheaper than getting in.
I said, current,
Yeah.
we have the ability to change the ticket price since we
Yeah.
have increased the price, the
Yeah.
ticket will go up.
I mean, what I have seen firsthand, actually, that people, I mean, it's not so much the people getting in. What we're really talking about is parking cars. That's what we're talking about. You can, I mean, people come down in a van and drive 9 people in, unload all this stuff, huh? And the van comes out and they actually get some more people and bring them in and then go park it someplace. Maybe Cherry Lane, maybe the Dolly parking lot. So there's, 12, 15 people get in. And it's not, so the system that we have is really to keep unauthorized automobiles out of the parking lot. It doesn't do a darn thing for keeping people up, right? I mean, when you come down.
That's no different than it's ever been.
Well, but I mean, in the past, if you didn't have a ticket hanging or you didn't have a sticker, you didn't get in.
No, but last year, van could have pulled up, bought a day pass for $40 on the weekend, loaded up the car, brought people in, drove back out, loaded up the car, exact same thing, no different from last year to this year in terms of that process.
Well,
That's the way it's been for many, many years. Nothing changed this year that would change that.
Or Shane, they'll say, I even saw this weekend, they'll say, I'm just coming in and turning around, or I'm just coming to look at the surf. And then suddenly there's people missing from the car. So it happens.
So I have to just clarify something. We have a parking system because we are not allowed to keep people out of our beaches. Okay, so people can walk in, they can ride their bikes in, they can be dropped off right outside the gate. I've seen it at all 3 of our beaches where people get, they're dropped off outside the gate and the car goes away. There's nothing we can do. Because of state law, we have to allow people to come into the beach. Yes.
One more thing about,
But that has nothing to do with parking though, right, Tom? Isn't that just, I thought it was.
We can charge for parking. We can't keep people out of the beach.
Right, exactly. That anybody can come in. Right, yeah.
in September, there's the David Purcell Triathlon. Are all those people going to get charged to come in for the triathlon?
So, Scott stepped away, but for something like that, I would assume the beach, the department would basically not, on that day, would just say, do not charge anyone, right? Because we have people coming from all over New England.
That day is also after Labor Day?
It's after Labor Day, but even if we extended, there's been talk about being able to, one of the flexibility with the system is to extend the season, right, that we're charging. So if we were to even to do that, we can just simply tell the guards on those days, from until noon on the day of the triathlon, do not charge anyone, or don't charge anyone all day.
Yeah, because people are
We
there.
just simply just tell that
I don't
group,
even
don't
finish
worry
that
about it.
race until almost 1 o'clock by the time I finish one.
One quick thing to think about though is, a good, probably 50% of the staff are college students, and they're gonna be gone in about 3 weeks. They're gonna be gone. And that's way before Labor Day. So that's something that, we should all consider as well, and how we're gonna keep things.
You back at school? Are you back?
I'm back in school I'll be here till Labor Day, but I'll be back in school
teaching the last few months.
All we want is to recruit some of those seniors.
Yeah.
Mary was talking about. Yes, sir.
As a member of Madison Little League, I have a question. What was the reasoning to move the time from 5 to 8 at the surf club?
Sorry?
The parking. Why are we charging to 8 o'clock when we used to only charge till 5?
Well, we got a lot of complaints from people that people were waiting until 5 o'clock to come in.
Okay. Because the reasoning is we always schedule Shoreline Summer League games there every year for the last 7 or 8 years. And this does cause a problem for us. And we're probably going to move all of our games to JC starting next week to get away from it. Because tonight I went there and we had a game and the sign said 8 o'clock. All right, so now we didn't know that we're charging at 8 o'clock tonight. So I went and talked to actually a gentleman here and he said, oh, tonight you guys just park over here. Don't worry about it. We're not going to ticket you. I said, okay, but Friday and we're back here again playing, issue's going to get brought up. Now, he did tell me, he came back and told me, oh, everyone's got to park in the sports lot. Okay, where people come from Westbrook, Essex, they don't know where the sports lot is. Now you put them in the sports lot, which is half a mile from Nelson, that's now covered in a fence that they can't even get through. So now for them to access Nelson, they're walking in the driveway to the surf club to get in the one gate that's open, where there's no crosswalks or anything, and it causes a safety concern. So now, I think you guys really should look at that. That's a problem. In the spring, it's not a problem because you're not charging. People don't need a pass. They can park. In the fall, we play fall ball there. They can park in the lot right outside. It really needs to be thought of. You have no crosswalks there. You have one gate that's open. The other thing that's a problem is people are stopping at the gate to read the sign to figure out how to park. We have our kids with their baseball bags crossing that driveway. People aren't really paying attention as they're moving forward through the gate. And I keep telling our kids, stop, wait till everyone passes because they're not looking at you. You know, I mean, that really needs to be looked at. You've blocked off Nelson Fields to one gate with an access sidewalk that you built that goes halfway that stops behind the strong backstop at the softball field. I'm just here just to raise that concern to everybody.
One other thing, with regards to the keeping it open beyond hours, it's a good idea to look at this, the remainder of this summer, find out how many people actually use it beyond that. Because it may be, especially given that you have to pay people to man the gate and to go around scanning, are you actually losing money? You know, and then M&J's has, you know, they lose money. People aren't coming in to buy the food, so you got, you know, kind of a double whammy there if there aren't that many people using it.
I think it's a valid request that once we have.
Yeah, it's worth watching.
We could probably, you know, measure up to 5 and then, you know, with counters and measure from 5 to 8 and see what.
Yeah, I mean, I've lived here for 19 years. I've been in Madison Little League the last 10, and we always play games at 6 o'clock on purpose during the summer because we know after 5 everyone leaves and they're not charging. So after 19 years of living here, you decide to move it from 5 to 8.
That's what my out-of-town friend said. She didn't know where to park. She parked by the beach where the kids can walk right across so that they can get into the field and drop their kids off there, you know. And so she didn't know anything about the grass lot, and there's no sign.
So the responsibility, I used to be a member of the sports advisory group of the Fields Committee. Fields Committee, well, yeah.
Gentleman over here said his hand up for a while.
So, well, I was supposed to say, it is the responsibility of Madison Little League, Madison Youth Lacrosse, for those program presidents and the organization to educate their teams, their coaches, and their away guests that are coming in as to the policies and the procedures of our fields. That's always been the case. So if people coming from Westbrook and Clinton don't know where they're supposed to park, that is the responsibility of Madison Little League, not the responsibility of the department or this commission. That is known by your committees that they're supposed to be doing that. We've had a lot of discussions both in the Fields Committee as well as in the commission around protecting the sports teams because there's been a lot of talk and from the community actually wanting to charge those families for coming in and watching their kids play sports. And that's something that we held up and we don't want to do, right? We want to make sure parents, grandparents can come in and watch their kids play, whether it be lacrosse, soccer, baseball, but that does put a responsibility on the individual sports programs to educate their coaches the parents and the away teams as to what their responsibilities are.
No, I understand that, as long as you had signage that actually got them to their lot, unless we're gonna hand out or send out PDFs to all the coaches and say, here's where you're gonna park, with a layout of the map of the parking lot. Did you guys have that?
Well, like last year at the gate, every sports team was handed a.
But that was easy, even this spring you did that. If you went into the gate, you didn't have a pass, the girl would give you, or the boy, whoever's at the gate would give you a piece of paper, put on your dash, go park in the dirt lot over around the corner.
Yep.
Now there's no one at the gate.
But now they might, we're saying there might be, there will be somebody at the gate, and maybe we can do that, to give out that piece of paper.
But
make it clear to them what they're
but Vince, again, the point was, that we made this decision, we knew we were going away from gate guards, was that the responsibility fell to the individual sports programs to educate the other team. So if you had a team coming away, the coach is responsible for emailing that team and going, when you show up to the surf club, here's the parking lot you need to park at.
I understand that, but
now we have to.
But hang on. In fairness, I mean, I was the Little League president forever, so was Tom, so full disclosure. I also think we need to ensure, I mean, Dave's been doing summer ball for the last 6 years and he wasn't communicated to. So I think we need to accept some responsibility here for articulating and communicating to the public, to the sports teams, to the leaders. It's not just one person, I think it's multiple people on each sport to ensure that they're understanding the new process. It's all new, change is hard, this is different for people. And I don't think people are understanding or hearing all the new rules that are coming out.
Well, no,
I think we have to repeat ourselves.
You made the meeting one day, and the next day you had the meeting and made all the changes. You cannot expect everybody to know what those changes are. And to me, the bigger issue is the safety of the children walking across and the gate situation. And
We can't lose the forest to the trees, I agree.
if we can't make sure that our children and other children are safe, then we should not be implementing this until we can. It's just as simple as that. Safety of the children in those parking lots needs to be number one.
And on beaches.
So
And on beaches, yeah.
All I would say in that is the decisions around the parking passes and the safety of the kids walking through the parking lots are two totally different subjects. They have nothing to do with one another. That same issue existed when we had gate guards sitting there letting people pulling up, and there's always kids walking across. Whether or not we want to address it as a separate issue to say we need crosswalks or other opportunities, I think that's a valid discussion to have, but I don't want to mix that with the challenges we're having with the parking pass, because they're two different issues.
We also have to speed.
Well, I think it's I think it's connected with the hours of implementation of the parking.
This gentleman's been waiting a long time.
I want to make sure you finish that topic because that seems to be very important to a large number of people here before I speak. My topic is going to be different, so.
You're yielding your time.
What?
You're yielding your time.
Okay, so I have a kayak at East Wharf, and on several occasions, I haven't been able to take my car down with my paddles and my life vest and all the rest to actually get to my kayak. So I'm paying the town for a rack expense, I'm paying the town for my parking expense, and I can't use it.
No parking spaces.
There are many more kayak racks than parking spaces. Everybody knows that. And most of the time, it's not an issue. I'm not saying it's a constant issue, but I'm paying for a service that I can't access 100%. And there was a week when I couldn't get it. And I get it, you're trying to figure it out. But it has to be part of the thought process is how do we address the parking, which does affect the kayak use and the racks that you have in East Wharf. And I think that's a bigger problem because it's small parking.
I have a little bit of data. Very, very few tickets are actually written at East because all the cars are permitted. So that's the one parking lot where the cars are, they're all mostly town residents and everybody's permitted.
You said everybody and mostly. Those are two contradictory terms.
What does permanent mean?
No, it's everybody or mostly everybody. It's not both. It can't be both.
not, we don't wanna say 100%,
Then
but
it
it's,
isn't 100%.
it's not 100%, but it's, I'd say it's in the high 90s. Very rarely is a ticket written at East since the
Very rarely.
implementation of the system.
But we have to let people in.
Oh, wait, I totally agree.
So-
I totally agree. I have no problem with that.
I know Westport has 2 signs, I believe, that say mooring boat holders after 5. Is it something as simple as dedicating 3 spots down there to kayak rack holders?
Just fewer kayaks.
Has that been effective, do we know, the signs?
Ultimately,
I would find that difficult to enforce.
Served a lot for kayaks.
Yeah, no, it's a problem.
they don't know who's parking there, they have a noise post or not.
Actually, we couldn't do this today, but could we add another pass type that if you were a kayak, right? No, but I'm serious. No, so if you're in a park, I mean, we can't do this today, but again, thinking for solutions, that if we have 3 dedicated spots and you scan and they're in one of those spots, if it's not a parking kayak pass, then you get a ticket because you're using, I mean, those are solutions, and it's one of the benefits of the system is we have those flexibility to make those changes and adjustments based on good ideas.
I don't know what the best idea is. I'm just saying, it's a bit frustrating to pay for 2 different passes and not be able to use the facility.
Didn't we also talk about maybe restricting beaches to residents only, like the smaller beaches to residents only, and having surf club? Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna resolve it, but it might,
No.
you know, it might make the 90%, might say, you know, there might be 10% more spots. One of the things that we talked about in other towns, some other towns do, is if they have multiple town beaches, they have certain beaches that will be for residents only, and then the other beaches where they will allow, and that apparently does pass the,
Yeah, because it's a parking issue, not a.
it's a parking issue, it's not a beach issue.
I have to say that at a small beach that you cannot park at, I have seen people dropping people and taking the car away many times.
Again, you can't.
And so, no, but
Yeah.
what I am saying, that would apply with what you're saying. You know, it's a beach where most of the people are from the surrounding.
Mhm.
So that, because many times I cannot use that beach in the summer.
Right, right.
That's important. You know, one of the things this commission is going to be doing is effectively evaluating whether or not we can make one of our beaches for residents only, or maybe several of our beaches, or maybe all of them, I don't know. But one of the things we're going to be doing is to evaluate whether or not we can do that, because it's a parking issue. You can restrict parking to residents. Old Saybrook does it, Westbrook does it, Westport does it, several other towns in Connecticut. I won't bore you with the details, but they do it for residents only. And then they give other beaches, like Old Saybrook has Harvey Beach, which is public, but they have a town of Old Saybrook, only residents can go in. I know because I tried it, my daughter lives there, and they wouldn't let me in. They said you have to have a sticker. And, you know, that's something we should, as a town, look at very, very seriously.
Yeah.
So, and we will be doing that as a
That's
commission.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand, Complis, which has now been taken over by Passport, were there any other towns that actually had a beach pass system, or were they just parking systems? Because it's my understanding that the beach pass system is still in place in most of these other towns like Westport and Old Lyme. You need a pass. It's not a beach pass system, it's just a parking system for their parking areas.
Old Lyme does use it for permits, but they chose to issue out stickers
Okay.
still, but they are using Complis.
But it's a sticker, it's still a sticker-based system where you can
Correct.
see physically that this car.
Correct. So it would be visible
Right.
instead of.
So, I'm just thinking, you know, one of the conversations that was had at the last meeting was, is this the right fit for Madison? And, you know, the beach pass system seemed to work fairly well. And I know that there were issues at the guard stations, but it seems like we're putting people back in the guard stations again. We're hiring more people. I'm trying to figure out if we want to, I mean, I know we're halfway through the season, it's tough to shift, but we are continually shifting this process at this point in time, and I'm wondering if it's not, reasonable to think that maybe we want to go back to a different type of system.
Well, we in all fairness, when ComPlus got acquired on June 3rd by Passport Department, which is our hourly app, we're waiting to see, they have a lot more capability. They're a younger company, but they're smart. So there may be a case where, and we were talking about it in our meeting in June when they first got acquired, that looking forward, we may be able to have the automatic scanners, like on Easy Pass, where you drive through the gate, and if you have a permit, you're fine, and if you don't, when you go out, you're going to get a bill for the time that you spent at the beach.
So it's my understanding that you need up to 6 tickets before it goes to DMV, is that still the case?
State of Connecticut we understand that it's 6 violations before they will it triggers a response from them to block a registration or suspension.
So just a couple more steps, I'm sorry.
If they remain on tape.
So last time I asked what the difference from last year to this year was as far as purchases of passes. Are we up, are we down, are we about the same?
Right now we have, last year under the old system, through the full season, we sold 6,300. And as of this afternoon when I left work, we were at 4,240. So we're getting
close.
It's
Two-thirds.
obviously slower because we started later.
Yeah.
But people are still signing up. They're coming in to the surf club. They're coming into the office. So we hopefully will meet last year's mark. But I mean, with the delayed start, I don't know.
Is this a multi-year contract that we signed with them? I mean, we're on the hook for what? How long?
It technically is a 3-year contract. But we do have, right at the moment, we do have options that may be open because of the acquisition.
Okay.
So which Tom and I are looking at.
So just one final statement that I would love to see it go back to 5 o'clock stop time and use the resources.
Well, that's what we're here for, is to receive suggestions.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of friends too that aren't able to make it here, but it's one of those things where you invite people to go to Garden Point and have dinner that are out of town, and it's a nice thing, but they're not necessarily, they're using the services of the vendors and they're not necessarily using the beach. It made for, kind of nice things to happen with outside family members who come in.
Joan, to be clear, this system does not allow somebody to accumulate 6 tickets before something is sent to them to enforce the ticket. That enforcement comes from the company first, after 1. And the 6th is only the cutoff for DMV in terms of not being able to renew your registration. But the company is in charge of enforcement throughout after the 1st.
But what's the impetus to pay though, I guess? If they're
Increased fees. And they send notices.
Right, but I could go for 5 days and not have really any kind of impact, right? Because if I don't pay the ticket,
Well, they claim above a 90% enforcement rate before it gets to DMV. So their communications process seems to be effective the way that they have established it. So I want to just be clear that we are not letting people get 6 tickets for free.
Right.
They're getting tickets and they're getting notices in the mail automatically without that being town resources devoted to that level of enforcement.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thanks for the
But
clarification.
does collection then happen tickets 1 through 5 empty?
Yes. Yes.
Through the town?
Continuously.
So the town is collecting?
No, the town doesn't.
At all?
But the payments come to the town.
The payments come to the town,
Yes.
but the ComPlus
But
does
the
the
work
collection?
enforcing it, sending out notices and keeping on top of that and timing it out, that goes through the company, not us.
So have you seen money coming in? I mean,
They actually chase the ticket.
Yes.
And we, the town of Madison, get all that money for the ticket. Where are they getting paid for the ticket?
They get a
Q&A sheet.
They get fees for
purchase
payment.
It's on your sheet.
percentage.
Yeah, can somebody explain that item 3 in there? Because it says we don't pay them a fee, then you enumerate the fees. And it sounds like we're relying on unpaid or illegal parkers to pay for the parking system, because that's where they're gonna get revenue from tickets.
You know, they get revenues from each sale of every permit.
And it also
Or
says
every
from
day
tickets,
pass.
though. It says tickets too here.
They-
So maybe you could just explain item 3 there, walk us through those numbers, because it's kind of confusing.
What it is, what that, the net revenue from tickets issued should have offset these charges. What that is meaning is the charges that we get for issuing permits and tickets, the money we hope to retrieve from the tickets is going to offset the $1.75 permit and the 3.5% credit card fee.
And those tickets are issued to people who don't have passes, right?
Correct.
And what's the net revenue on a $40 ticket to us?
It's one minus $1.75 plus 3.5%.
Oh, okay, so that's not just the online purchases of auto tickets.
Because it's any credit card.
Got it, okay.
Scott, just out of curiosity, because I'm not sure I know the answer, who negotiated the terms of this contract?
It was part of the contract, and when we knew that people were going to be using credit cards, we didn't feel that it was fair to have a $40 adult pass, and we're trying to have people pay by credit card, have them take the hit for the convenience fee. So
No, but was it you and Tom, was it the whole Beach and Rec Commission, like who
That was-
actually negotiated and ratified it?
It was directly from Commerce.
They gave us sort of the standard.
This is what it.
Got it, thank you.
Yep.
I have a suggestion. I've been trying to stay on top of what's going on with Beach Pass by going on the Madison Town Hall website, and there's not a lot of information on there. So like this Q&A perhaps could be posted on the Madison website. It doesn't clearly state what a guest pass is. It doesn't clearly state that you can do this at the town hall and also at the surf club office. I go to the beach all the time. I don't know where the surf club office is, at the surf club.
Main building.
Thank you. So I think a lot of confusion, a lot of people are going to like Beach and Rec, but there's nothing there. Like you could put this, you could put, this is what the beach pass costs, this is this, this is this. It would answer a lot of questions, because when people start doing this, and the people that don't actually use the beach are the ones that are doing more of this than the people that actually use the beach. So that would be my suggestion.
Thank you.
I have a question. How are people, I guess I should put this, how are people really determining whether out-of-towners, guests, are actually coming to watch games at the surf club? Like, how can you really verify that? Because people can just drive in and be like, yeah, I'm here for the game, and go make a sandcastle. So is that, like, 'cause they're not gonna be worrying about a ticket if they tell people they're gonna go see the game? Well, their license plate will get scanned, and they have to be gated. But if they're out of town and they're here for a game, wouldn't they get in for free? Is that what you're-
The question is
I think
there
the
a
reality
process?
is that we're not building Fort Knox.
Yeah.
And so somebody who creatively wants to game their way into the property,
Yeah.
Sometimes that's going to happen, and it is just a cost of us trying to make the beaches accessible as possible. So, does that happen? I'm sure it probably does. Does it happen a lot? Probably not so much.
But it sounds like in years past, and I know for a fact, through Little League, we used to have these little passes. I know Mike talked about it, that there's, you know, we can put something on a dash or something like that that just says, and I saw the MJ employees had a little thing on their pass.
Well, and I know last year when you drove up and said, I'm here for a game, you'd have to say, what game are you here for? And the guards actually had a list of the games that were.
That's true, that was actually really helpful.
So, we didn't need that this year because now we were doing based on, because now they're going around scanning and giving tickets. So if you didn't park in the sports lot, then you'd get a ticket for parking in the wrong place.
So, second part to that is I got scared, so I bought a beach pass. Because my son goes to camp at the surf club. And I was scared if I took too long inside picking him up and signing him out, that I was gonna get a ticket. So I was like, let me go spend this $40 and call it a day. Is there anything there where I can get like a special sticker or something that says, hey, you know, I have a child at summer camp or anything like that? Just an idea for all the parents or the people that do babysitters that do pick up kids and drop them off there.
Would that
From
fall
the
under the
area.
caretaker permit?
We can determine work. That's a good idea. Sure.
I mean, it's
So you don't
worth
get
$40,
caught.
but still.
So you don't get caught up.
Yeah.
Mark Finer, 61 Twilight. I work for the town, so I don't know where I stand on this. But you got M&J over here, who's done a tremendous job at the concession stand. And when you go to a business, say in New Haven, and they validate your parking, can we do the same thing for this guy? Where if I want to go down to the surf club and have dinner, he could hand out another sign like Little League used to do, and put it on his dash, you know, for 2 hours, so you can go down there and grab dinner from this guy. Who's doing a tremendous job.
And it actually happened, I was at the gate Saturday, and it actually happened a couple times where people actually asked, you know, can I come in to go to MJ's? And we said, well, you need to pay for parking, and they turned right around. They asked, could they turn around? So it is absolutely impacting his business.
I don't know if Scott would agree with this, I'm sure he would. Of all the concession people that we've had there in the last, say, 20 years, he's done a tremendous job at running that establishment. So
Yeah,
I
Mark,
think you throw him a bone.
I can tell you, I already requested that to be one of our agenda items at our next official Beach and Recreation Commission meeting. And it's my opinion, and I'm gonna advocate that at that meeting, that we can help with something similar to the sports pass for diners so that we do not hurt his business. Because he has done a wonderful job for 8 years now. And within 24 hours, I got firsthand knowledge, just coincidentally, of a group that specifically said, we were gonna go down there for a meeting, but since they're charging for parking, we're not gonna do it. So we're gonna work on that. It's at our next meeting, first week in August.
One of the things that I could propose in the meantime until we get it figured out, that if his customers do get ticketed, maybe they can bring the receipt and the ticket to me in the surf club office.
That's a great idea.
That's a good idea.
Great idea.
That's a suggestion.
Mike Docker, everybody, Mike Docker.
So the out-of-towners got to come back to Madison and do what's affected by the cloud close.
Can I just add,
Definitely.
like you said, we have our meetings on the Beach and Rec Commission are first Tuesday of every month. They're at 7 o'clock, and they're usually at the town center. And they're open to the public. We have a session, part of the meeting, which is given to public comment. And quite frankly, we'd love to see this many people at those meetings, because that input enables us to make better, more informed, decisions. So I invite anybody. August 6th is the next meeting, so I'd love to see the same faces.
Can I
Love to be this
also,
lady.
going once again to seniors?
I'll offer my
Not me.
At that meeting, I'll offer you $50.
I just, it might be a thought also, because so many people who are seniors are not completely familiar with computers. It might be a thought to have a day here for seniors to be able to come and get a beach pass, and to fill out the paperwork here, because I think it can be an overwhelming task for a lot of people
computerized, what do I do? And I think many people thought that they were no longer allowed to go to your office to buy a pass, that it was, you know, you get it this way or you don't get it at all. And I think that may very well be why the numbers are off, because people are leery of computers and leery of using, you know, putting data into a computer. So maybe if you had something, you know, on once a month or once every 2 weeks, where seniors could come here and get the assistance to be able to do that.
I found too, though, even at the gate, like when Pam and I were working, it was interesting because we actually had people, directed people right to the surf club office, and they were really appreciative. I mean, Mike even walked somebody over, I think, at one point, just to help them out and just ensure that they were getting the proper registration and all the things that they needed. So I think a lot of people don't know that that office exists. So I think not just knowing that it's there and getting people to kind of start using it as a secondary system, it was really helpful.
I'm just going to jump in and try to get first.
I
live in Madison, but I'm also a school administrator in New Haven, and teams that my school has have had the courtesy of coming to play a couple of times in Madison, which has been a wonderful experience. And knowing and having greeted them there and try to find them any system that relies on coaches and leagues to communicate to parents who then communicate to grandparents is bound to fail. We need signage and clearer directions. Or I wouldn't want to put it on the teams, but maybe even it's the team's responsibility to have a greeter that then hands out those things and directs somebody. But relying on schools and coaches and things to get messages to all those people is always going to fail. In my other hat as a school administrator, I was very surprised to see that there's no accounting for and no knowledge of what the town beaches cost or generate. That just seems shocking to me. And so I would just suggest that if that's true, that we think about how one could do that, because making decisions is about knowing about what your resources and your expenses are in hours and numbers. And if we don't know what we're spending, how could we make a decision to make a 3-year commitment to a company? Boggles my mind.
The town budget is public information and it's published on the town website, but do you have a specific question? I have the information from last year's season.
Yeah, I mean, it just, in here, it says that there's no breakdown of costs for town beaches. And so if there is one, I'd like to see it.
There's no breakout of the costs for the beaches only. Beach and Rec Department has a budget that I believe.
Right, it seems like, I mean, I'm not trying to interview what you guys are doing in line. I'm just saying, if we're making decisions about beaches and parking, we don't have information about people's budgets, how do you make that decision?
Last year, we made $160,000 on beach passes, both residents and non-residents.
And what did we spend on town beaches?
I don't think that's a line, I don't think we have.
That's my point.
Yeah, that's the point.
That's what, I don't know if it's true, I'm just saying it says it here.
We have salary for beach staff as a separate line item, but they're all tied into maintenance of all of the parks in town, including all the way up to Rockland, all the way over to Meadow Park. That's all part of the department budget.
Right, just food for thought, I'm sure it's possible to come up with a cost allocation of what it costs to operate the town beaches, and that would be useful information as you all, as a committee, and us as residents, decide what are good allocations of resources.
I just want to reiterate, we made $160,000 last year on beach passes.
And he spent $250,000 on personnel.
I understand.
I don't know if that's true, but you don't either.
No, well, so that's not, what you just said is not accurate. We do know how much we spend on personnel, because we know what our beach staff is. The point is that we don't know, the people that are maintaining the surf club property facility also maintain Rockland, maintain Salt Meadow. So the amount of time they spend at just the surf club, East Fork and West Fork, we don't know that, but we do know summer staff salaries, the programs that go into paying for the summer program. We do know all those different elements, but yes, the broader facilities, that is one larger budget that's in the beach and rec.
Right, and I'm sure there's revenues possibly from the contract with the food service contractor. You know, it just seems like there could, if there is, I would just like to see it, and I think it would be useful tool to know what it's costing. It would be interesting then to know if it's not a prohibitive measure that has to do with Hammonasset or out-of-towners, how the value of tickets is set if we don't know what we're trying to recover. Just food for thought.
I just had a quick point too, on the closing time. Last night, West Wharf was getting a bunch of tickets for non-permit holders around 7:30, and I just think that these lots are getting filled up and crowding out people from that have permits for the small beaches, and then the people are going in without permits after 5 and using the resources, creating garbage, using paper, whatever they're using. I have no problem with accommodating MJ's. They have great food there, but I still think we have to encourage people to buy a permit, because I think there are a lot of residents also who don't have permits and go in after 5 and take advantage of the beach, and they're not paying their fair share.
Seems a lot of discussion, problems, not everything related to the new beach pass system, but a lot of it. And I'm wondering what problem was going to be solved by the new beach pass system, that it's worth trying to solve all these issues created by it. So what was the problem we were trying to solve?
It's on the keep sheet.
No. So was it the backup at the gate?
Part of it
There were 3 main issues that we wanted to address. One was the backup of the gate, the confrontations at the gate and the treatment of the staff, department staff, and then ease of access to getting the passes themselves, right? So going in, being able to buy a pass, now being able to go online and get it. Those are the 3 primary drivers that when we were discussing as a commission, that we wanted to address those challenges.
I mean, speaking for myself, I'm at the beach a lot. I've never had an issue waiting for 4, 5, or 6 cars. I've never had an issue going down to town hall to buy the pass. It just seems like we're trying to solve a problem that didn't exist.
And the other issue is now you're putting people back in the gates, so you're back to the same problem with them getting hassled.
And more confrontation because nobody knows the rules.
Yeah.
The questions that came to us that helped spurred this system were those questions, though. People were telling us that the lines were long at the gate, and so we were listening to those comments that came to us about a year ago.
But did you do an analysis on that? Because anybody that sits in line behind one car that maybe somebody's asking some questions could be a naysayer. So you have to do a study that goes along with it. You have to do the verbal kind of complaints.
The gate have always kept statistics of cars coming in over the last several years.
This lady here is that around.
I just have a question when we go back to putting people at the gate. So you're gonna have people at the gate. Are they just there for informative purposes and the scanning's still gonna go on in the parking lot? Or is there any gonna be proactive enforcing at the gate where as you pull in, you scan, you're a resident, great, go, go, go. I know that slows the process down, but to me, you still have all this bad ticketing going on in the parking lot, all these, miscommunications, and then you're just gonna put somebody in the gate to talk to what a sign could do. I like the presence in the gate a lot. I think that's a big thing, but you still have the whole process going on in the parking lot at the same time you're having somebody at the gate. I just don't know if you could pull anything back to the gate.
Being at the
for
gate on
enforcement.
Sunday, most of the people there were people that were there to purchase day passes and others that weren't sure, but I would say that probably 75% of them had their beach passes and they knew exactly, they just got waved through. So I think it's starting to, I think in the beginning, it was probably tough because number one, it had a very slow start, but I think people are starting to get it now. So a lot of the concerns that brought people out initially are starting to subside.
There was one issue so I got asked by a resident, it was a resident of Madison, that had a beach pass, and I think you were in the office at that point, you didn't actually see this, where she came up to me and she asked, so I see a bunch of cars in the parking lot here, there's no spot, and I see cars with active tickets on them. are we gonna have a ticket and tow policy? Have we thought about that yet? I didn't know how to answer the question, so I helped her get a spot.
You know, it just seems like, I mean, these things start out by saying, improve the process, you know, to acquire a beach pass. Improve this, do that. I mean, it seems like we have created many, many more issues. I'm sure a lot of them that we didn't anticipate. But, I mean, we're trying to solve all these individual problems, many of which never existed before, and now they exist. I mean, you know, we could get into, and the other thing is, you know, one thing that I hate is you see it on the news all the time, where they run a story, and it's because some say that so-and-so did this, some say. And whoever said, you know, you need to follow the facts. You can't just say 23 people in Madison complained that they during the summer had to wait in line because there was 6 cars in front of them.
So, but I think the decision was made, the recommendation was made based on facts. So we know how many confrontations our staff had to deal with last year, and the nature of those confrontations. So that was maintained. Is there anything today that you can't buy online? So the expectation for a large population of people is, I can buy my beach pass or my parking pass online. So that's a capability that should be offered to our residents. So, and as far as we do get, I mean, we can't measure how many days there was 15 cars backed up, you know, or how long those are backed up. But we know that we've had problems with lines at the gates as people are trying to pay for a day pass and they don't have cash on them, or whatever the challenge might be. So again, the intention of this was to improve the process. I think we all recognize the fact that we've had some failures to launch here in terms of it going out. But as Scott said earlier, change is difficult. We're trying to improve it, and we do believe in the end this is going to be the right system for the town and for our residents.
Mine did say that
I should
the
think
problem
I
seemed.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. This is an evolving process. I don't think, there are some members on the commission, in this commission, that might feel differently, that might feel that we might go back to the old system. I'm just making a point that not everyone is in step with this, and there are going to be some modifications and some changes made. Because I think we may want to go back and reevaluate where we are, and how do we effectively decide whether or not this is a good thing or a bad thing. That's not in place yet. We don't know that this is a great system. So it's an evolving question that we all address. And, you know, I invite you to come to the August meeting, come to the September meeting, because there'll be more input to that question. It's not a definite, defined, we're done kind of question.
I agree, Shane, I agree with you that you know, we probably need to move forward and be able to get beach passes, so to speak, online. You know, for those that can't, we have a backup, you can go and get them. But I guess the thing that I'm more concerned about is, in the past, if you bought a beach pass, regardless of how you got it, if you got it online, if you went to the surf club, and if it was on your car, you got in. If it wasn't on your car, you didn't get in. And you didn't have people running around the parking lot scanning things, and you didn't have a system where, you know, you had to get 6 tickets, and then someone tries to reinforce it, and then now we're talking about putting 6 to 8 more gate guards on, which in the past we had. That's all I'm saying.
But the whole problem started, this whole meeting is because people were turned away who lived in Madison, who wanted to go to the beach on the 4th of July weekend, that there were.
That's what I heard.
That's kind of where it all started. We who paid for a pass were not allowed in because there was no parking.
So I think the 4th of July was.
Right, I know that's.
So Hammonasset closed by 9:30.
And Hammonasset directed.
They were directing people, so no matter what system we had in place, 4th of July would have been.
Has that been rectified? The Hammonasset sending them over to, I mean, has there even been a discussion?
I don't apologize. There are people that are.
Yeah, no.
They aren't told what to do, they just tell what people want to do themselves. We complain
I think it's
before
the
they implement the system.
It might be great to hear from.
I mean, I was right there in the center of it.
Yeah.
So 4th of July, after the parade ended, we ended up with a line all the way out to Route 1 of people trying to come in. And I had my staff monitoring the parking lot, and we can fit 500 cars. We have, right now, 4,200 passes. So even if we didn't allow residents to come in, I mean non-residents to come in, right? If everybody wanted to come to the beach on the 4th of July, it's not going to happen. Only 500 cars can come into the circle. So the lots filled, exchange was starting to get cars, and that's when I called PD and had them shut down Surf Club Road for only 30 to 45 minutes. And then it opened up again, and then cars were just moving in and out, and the entire surf club was empty, not a soul by 9 o'clock. The beach was super crowded because it was a really high tide. So there was absolutely no room on the beach at the high tide mark. So that was the impetus. I had a very large line. I knew Hammonasset was closed, and I closed the road down for, I think, tops 45 minutes. And that seemed to stem the tide from Hammonasset. And then it was cars moving in and out, a couple in, a couple out after that, with the road open. So we were in the gate that day. And every non-resident that came through did get the directions to pay on the Passport app. We were not allowed to ticket yet because of all the problems with the rollout. On the 5th, I talked to Scott about, we've got to let us start ticketing. I know it's going to cause a lot of headaches, but we don't want this to be a free-for-all down here. And we have to start at least getting those slips of paper onto the cars so that way people know that there's a consequence if you're not going to pay to play at our beach. So, but that's what happened on the 4th of July. I had all 14 of my staff members on. We worked 17 and a half hours in the 3rd. Went to sleep for a few hours and came back in for 16 hours in the 4th. All 14 of us, because that's all we had. And actually, so that is, so that's where we were. And I didn't see people having sex in the water. None of my friends said that they saw that. I just assume that's a new act that I've been hearing about through people. I did not see fist fights. There's only been one fist fight that I know of, and that was between 2 7th graders. And that was really interesting. No fist fights. I personally was out walking around. I did not smell any marijuana. So I saw the comments on Facebook with all those groups, and was it really, really busy? Absolutely. But it's the 4th of July. It's going to be really, really busy. And I didn't see half of the things. My staff did not report half or even a third or a quarter or any of the really crazy behaviors that were going on down there. And it was just a really, really warm, crowded beach. And I'm a little bit nervous for this coming Saturday with the 110-degree forecasted temperature. Hammonasset will probably be closed by 9 a.m. again. But we'll be in the gates like we were on the 4th.
Can there be a limit as to how many out-of-town people come in?
We cannot stop out-of-town people from coming in.
Johnson, there is in the back, he's M&J stands.
My name is John Snary. I'm the owner of M&J's Beach Grill at the Surf Club. I have a lot of issues, but I want to address the 4th of July, if you don't mind, with Mike's staff. Did a great job that day. This is my 8th year at the beach. This 4th of July was the same as 4th of July 8 years ago, and the same as the 3rd of July 8 years ago. I have records, anybody can see them. My workers came in at 9 o'clock in the morning and they left at midnight, 13 of them. So, because they know they can't park after, I can't say come in at 4. You can't come in at 4. You have to come in early and you got to stay for the day. So it seems like, I don't have Facebook, so I didn't read it. I've been told a lot of things. Whatever happened this 4th of July and the 3rd, It's been happening for 8 years. It's just finally being brought out. The parking lot has always been closed at a certain time because they can't fit any more cars. Hammonasset's been closed every year because they can't fit any more cars. It seems like people just found out this month that this happened. And that's what's surprising to me, because last year the same thing happened, no one said anything. The year before the same thing happened, no one said anything. All of a sudden this year, people are talking. I didn't see any fights. I'm there every day, 7 days a week, from 8 in the morning to 10 at night, 7 days a week, May, June, July, and August. I'm there every day. I don't see it. The surf club runs like a clock. There's no problems. There's a couple incidents, there's got to be incidences that occur here and there. I have never seen a fight in all the years. The 7th grade fight I saw because it happened right in front of me. And it wasn't even a fight. They're 7th graders. Those are not fights. The fight was he punched him and he ran to the back. He just ran, so it wasn't even a fight. It doesn't count. So it's been brought up as such a big issue on the 4th of July. Next 4th of July, same thing's going to happen. Sorry to surprise people, but it's going to happen next year. You come to the surf club on the 3rd at 8 o'clock in the morning, the entire beach is covered with tents and beach chairs. And if someone wants to come to the beach at 3 o'clock on the 4th, you're crazy. You're not going to get in. And I'm not saying anything mean or wrong, but 500 cars, that's all we can fit. And it's non-resident. Even if you say just residents, Mike made a great point. Okay, 4th of July, only residents can come. At 3 o'clock, the parking lot's going to be full. So even if you make it residents only, it's not going to solve the problem. You can't fit any more cars. So I don't see that as an issue. I see it as a good thing on the 3rd and 4th. Everybody's there having a great time, picnicking, buying food from me, bringing their own food. They're having a great time. I didn't see any craziness going on. I didn't see glass bottles. I didn't see people drinking crazy and dancing and doing all these things they're saying. I didn't see it. I didn't see it. I had a line to the beach. That's what I can see. And people were waiting an hour for food. I knew that because we can't cook that fast. But other than that, I thought everybody had a great time. And when the fireworks were over, that last firework goes off, those cops clear that place out so quick, it's amazing. It's amazing. At 10:15, it's empty. So it runs great. So whatever is going on down there, it's working. Just so you guys, I want everybody to understand that. The parking issue for me, what's going to affect me is charging after 5 o'clock. Because the majority of my 60%, maybe 65% of my business occurs after 5. People come for dinner. And if they know they have to pay for parking, they're not going to come anymore. They already told me. They're not coming. You know, we're not going to pay to park. You know, I can't argue with them. I just explain this is the policy that the town is coming in with, and we have to work with it, and whatever happens, happens. But at 5 o'clock, it's very, very quiet. You come down there every day at 5, there's no one there. There's no one there at 4 o'clock, empty. At 6 o'clock, between 6 and 8, every table in my place is filled. And at 8 o'clock, one skunk comes out, everybody goes home. I have a security guard, he's right there, he comes out at 8, everybody leaves, the place is quietly locked up when we leave. But it happens every night. So charging for parking after 5 is really going to hurt my business. And that's what I'm really here for, is to try to, if we can curb that in any way, I'd appreciate it, because I put a lot of time and effort into what I do. My staff puts a lot of time and effort in what they do. And I do a lot for the town, and I'm just hoping the town can help me out by that window, that 3-hour window for parking would really hurt, because people come down from every town in the state. They tell me, look, I advertise in 4 different publications throughout the state, and in those publications it says free parking after 5. And it says it on my website, it says it in Yelp, and it says it in Google, it says it in Instagram. I close free parking after 5. That's all got to be changed, but that's what people see. They follow social media, they read magazines, and it's already out there. So how we can adjust that, I don't know. But I just want to thank you for my time. I appreciate it. And just so you know, Mike's doing a great job and his staff down there. So,
just to keep going with the 5 o'clock, one thing I didn't bring up is that Surf Club's also an event venue. And the setup for the events begins at 3 o'clock usually. And the events, usually all the guests arrive for 5 o'clock because of the established policy. So I'm just wondering, and they're not gonna wanna park on the grass lot. I had, for lack of a better term, a bridezilla really wanted me to, she wanted me to empty the front parking lot so people could park there. And I was like, I can't tell my residents to get off the beach and go home. So, what, we need to find a solution for the events. They're paying a lot of money to rent out the surf club. They're having guests come in. We're gonna have to, and I'm just wondering how you want me to enforce. How am I gonna choose? How am I gonna know it's somebody there for a wedding? There's a wedding with 125 people coming in this Saturday. You know, usually when I'm afraid the beach is gonna be at capacity. And if the beach is at capacity, they've paid for the venue and know they're gonna be able to park in there. So it's could be a interesting day for me on Saturday.
Yeah, so I don't think procedurally you have to wait till August 2nd because you guys had, first of all, you had a special meeting that implemented this. You could do a special meeting, but you have a Board of Selectmen meeting coming up Monday. You could add it to the agenda to either modify the time or adjust for M&J and for events. I think we really should address that this coming Monday and not really allow it to go too much longer. I think that most of the people feel as though, at least the people who are going to the M&J should be allowed to either have validation and the same thing with the event.
That's what we were just,
Yeah, so
we're gonna make that happen.
and the second thing is if we could get a little more information on the out clause of what potentially could happen if that's not privileged, or would that be discussed at the 22nd meeting as well?
It's usually a merger and an acquisition.
Right.
Bill, you have a choice of a certain amount of time, and I would imagine it's standard contract. I would imagine that's what it is.
That's usually in all the contracts that I've
Yeah.
dealt with, but a lot of times it's the client does not have the say to stop the merger. They have to just go with it. Sometimes.
Well, they can exit the contract. It's usually that they can exit the contract. I would imagine that's pretty standard language in every contract I've written.
One final thing that I wanted to bring up is a little bit different than the three main public beaches in Madison, and that is that there are other access points to the sound for the town. The one I'm most familiar with is at Middle Beach Road and Tuxas Road, and of late there have been countless dozens of people who have been dropped off with their coolers and their umbrellas and their loud music and all the weed they want to smoke and everything else. And they are there from dawn till dusk on weekends in particular. Fishermen are there, they're quiet, they want to catch fish. They're kind when you say, could you guys put the fish heads back in the sound? Scott has kindly put a garbage can there for the pet waste. So all of that is working nicely. But I'm wondering if you might consider when you're doing the considering restricting some of the beach access to Madison residents only, if there might be a sign at those other places that say access restricted to Madison residents only. Nobody from Madison who used to come and have lunch or just come park for a bit, nobody from Madison is able to use these places. We're not able to swim there anymore. We're not able to even walk by. The behavior is so deplorable by these folks. And they're coming from East Hartford, from Hamden, from North, they're driving to get here. And they don't want to go to Hammonasset because some of them don't know that they don't have to pay if they're a Connecticut resident. And others don't have their fishing passes, so they don't want to fish where they're going to be checked. They're all dropped off, so they're not parking there. Mostly the parking is taken up by people who live nearby and don't care to have others park there. So as you're considering restricting access, those are points that shouldn't necessarily fall, I wouldn't think, under the main beach access for everybody in the state to have to come to. If we could take back our access, that would be awesome.
It's not a beach, but it's 5-car lot.
I'm sorry?
It's not, technically it's not a beach, but
Right,
she was just asking.
Oh, there are 4 parking places. There used to be 3, now there are 4 after the hurricane. And Tom knows the details. It's kind of dangerous on the weekends with some of these people and what goes on. Thank you.
As you know, West Fork Beach is my thing. I love that beach because I do have a handicap. There's a spot right there. I don't have to do stairs. That's my favorite beach. I understand M&J and the Surf Club, you may change that to 5 o'clock. Is there any possibility of keeping West Fork with guards until 8 o'clock? Because from once 5 o'clock counts, as last year, even when we had guards, the hotel people just pull right in there. It's a beautiful place to watch sunsets. I couldn't go down anymore and do that. And I would really appreciate it if you consider that. When you're there, if there's not a gate guard, who do you complain to if you see, I saw kids, and they were teenagers. Someone said on Facebook, people should take care of their own kids. These were teenagers that ride their bike and jumping off the wharf. They're going to get hurt. There are people walking their dogs, there's people smoking. If someone gets hurt, I know Surf Club has people around, but at West Fork, who do I complain to? I went to go into a parking handicap spot, and there were scooters and bikes in that handicap spot. And I thought, do I call the police? I got out and I tried to move them myself so that I could get into that spot. It was the only one available. But I really wish you would take into consideration, it's a different situation with the hotel there, if we could just have it until 8 o'clock and get that beach, if not.
Would you do that on East Wharf too? Keep it to 8 o'clock?
Yes.
We make it to 8? Huh? I don't know, I'm just asking.
Sure.
Yes.
And then make the Surf Club 5 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Now, will there be gate cards next year at all beaches, like Cincinnati has? And why can't the gate cards use the scanner? Can't the gate
The
cards
answer to that, the
scan?
commission is looking at that. Very question.
But can the gate cards scan as they come in so that you don't have to have duplicate people going around? Is that not possible? I don't understand the system like you do, but, yeah. You will consider, please, West Fork, thank you.
First of all, I want to thank you all for your service. I know some of you are volunteers. I know it's not easy. But I have lived here 20 years. My parents lived here 20 years before me. And it just seems to me that the old system wasn't broken. Is that completely off the table going back to that?
I've lived there 40 years, and the answer to the question is no, it's not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so.
Because it seems like if we were to continue with Compass or Passport or whatever they're called,
Right.
we'd be breaking, if we weren't to continue, we'd be breaking the contract, and we'd have to pay a fee. Is that correct?
Yeah, 40 years I've lived here. I raised 3 daughters, and I have 9 grandkids, 7 of which live around the town.
Yeah,
And-
so,
Right, so lots of things going on in my house.
but so
So
we're
everybody
gonna,
tells me, you know, what, Papa, Grandpa, what the heck are you doing? So I've been asked the question just as well as you. So I promise you, we are gonna take a look at all those questions that you've raised and get answers to what you said.
because it seems to me like this side of the room said too, that, you know, we're creating more problems than we're solving. And it's gonna cost, in the end, we taxpayers more money.
We understand.
Well, can I just say one more thing, sorry, to build on, somebody said it earlier about, you know, what problem are we trying to solve? I think, you know, it's sort of addressed in this Q&A, but, you know, at the end of the day, I think we gotta be thinking about that. And I guess question to Tom or Scott or Rob, I don't know who the right people are to ask, but did we ever consider prior to entering into this agreement with ComPlus, did we consider just adding more staff to the gates and focusing on more that issue as opposed to?
The answer is yes, Scott, we did. We did, yeah, we talked about, we need a different profile of staff at the gate. We talked about even, do we do something with the police? Again, trying to address the behavior of the treatment of the staff. So all of those discussions were had.
I think too, though, before August, like that one was suggested to have a meeting coming up because, I'm not sure what your name is, Doctor. That, you know, he's leaving at the end of August, or his staff is going to college. What are we gonna do in 4 weeks? You know,
It's gonna be, everything's gonna fall apart
Well,
if we don't have.
Well, in 4 weeks, it goes back to the beach is open to anyone coming in. There's no enforcement.
In the middle of August, when the college is.
No, at the end of.
Yeah, Labor Day.
On Labor Day,
Yeah, but in 4 weeks, he said his staff is gonna be going back to school.
I've been taking pictures of the lots, and if anybody's interested, I can call them up. On a normal weekday, if there's no instance of being overrun, we're very, very much a quiet beach town during the weekdays.
Even Sunday afternoon, I was down there for almost the entire afternoon, and it was about half full. It was a beautiful day, it was a perfect beach day. The lot was about half full from 2 to 5:30.
Just to touch on what John said and what Mike said, I work for the town. I'm down there at the beach, sometimes 7 days a week. The 4th of July was madness. But like John said, it's every year. Same with the fireworks. But any weekday, any weekend, that park, I was actually this past Saturday, I worked in the morning time, and then my family had a picnic down there. I went down there, I was there the entire day. That back gravel lot maybe was a third full at the height. After 5 o'clock when I left, it emptied out a little bit more. I really don't think there's a parking issue. Maybe at Eastworth and Westworth, but kind of like John said about the 4th of July, East and Westworth, there's minimal spots, there's 4,200 passes. They're going to fill up. Yes, you're going to have some people in there that are taking advantage of the parking system. But I truly believe, everybody has an issue with this new online system, and they're blaming it on the parking. The parking's not the issue. The beach, yes. High tide, you lose a lot of that beach. Down at the surf club, even Eastworth and Westworth. But ultimately, the parking isn't the issue anywhere. Just facts.
I'd like to jump in here. I've been kind of quiet tonight because I wanted to hear what you had to say. I'm Al Goldberg, I'm one of your selectmen. You've given us quite an education tonight, I think, and there's a lot we can profit from it. I think we officials need to continue to acknowledge that this implementation of this transition has led to a lot of problems for the public. And I think I would like to change the nature of the questions for a minute, because I think you've been too gentle on us. I think we need to question ourselves up here at the front table about what we have learned about the decision-making process that we used that got us to this point. And some of the kinds of questions that I think we should be asking ourselves, I'm talking about the people sitting up front here, some of the ones that we haven't touched on tonight is, did we ask the right questions when we were considering these changes? Did we establish realistic timelines for the implementation of all of these changes? There's a lot of changes. Did we ask for and receive timely progress reports? Did we ask for and receive comprehensive plans as to how this was going to be implemented and how it was going to be communicated? And did we really understand your expectations about what was needed in these things, especially safety? And I'd like to think that those of us up front here are going to benefit from your comments and questions tonight, but I think we also need to question our own decision-making process here and learn from it. So I appreciate the candor of what's going on here tonight, and I think it's been a learning experience for those of us up front here as well. Thank you.
Yes. I think maybe, I can't speak for everybody, but I think 2 takeaways are: number 1, safety. Lifeguards, safety for all issues. I'm sure you all read that sadly a gentleman lost his life in an accident. It happens, and they have lifeguards. It happens. So whatever you guys have to do, please take some considerations. If you can't get a lifeguard for the rest of the season, please, for next year. And secondly, goodwill. You know, I like this lady's suggestion that maybe East and West Wharf are, you know, restricted to 8 p.m., but the surf club, the John and MJ's, you know, you go there for dinner, say 5 to 6 or 6 to 7. Oh, this is a cute little town. Let me check out the movie theater. Let me check out the restaurants, RJ Julia's. It's goodwill, it's good public relations. I'm a realtor, you're a realtor, Joan's been a realtor for many years. It's our job to talk about what a great and welcoming town Madison is. And if you guys have read some of the comments on the Facebook pages, there's a lot of anger out there and people saying, I want no part of Madison. You know, we don't want that. This is a wonderful town. So safety and goodwill and inviting people to come check out Madison, whether you want to move here or not, take advantage of our wonderful facilities and restaurants and stores and so on and so forth.
Hi, I'm Noreen Cocaruda. I'm your state representative. So the Passport to Parks program at Hamathasset, well, I supported it, and I still do, and I know it seems like it's caused some issues, but I just wanted to tell you a couple of things. 25 years ago, I was chairman of Beach and Rec, and I can remember when I left, Beach and Rec changed the beach pass system, and I remember hating the new system, which is actually the system we had until this year. I love the one with the little card, and but it was a change, and I wasn't happy with it, but you know what? It lasted for 25 years until this year. I'll tell you, the reason this whole issue started with the beaches, as you most likely know, is the court case in Greenwich. But what the court said was, they based it on the right to assemble, that everyone has a right to assemble in a public place. So I certainly don't think it's those 5 parking spots, but the beach they do. So what the town did back then, that many years ago, was say, okay, we've got to control these numbers. And we're not allowed to do it with charging to get into the beach, but we can do it through parking. And that's how parking got such a big deal, was it was the only way we could control. If someone comes for the day for $40, $50, they're going to think twice. And that's how we were able to somewhat control it. And I totally agree, every 4th of July, it's been tough. And it was really unfortunate for a lot of us to see what was on Facebook last week. It's not our town, and none of us want to see that again. And it was unfortunate for 1 or 2 bad days. But I will tell you, a year ago when passports to parks first got passed, and the reason it did was we're one of the few states that really don't pay to take care of our parks by our admission fees. So Hamathasset brings in a ton of money, and hardly any of that money was going into that park. And as you recall, there were times that they closed the park last year. They were threatening to close Makes Point Nature Center a month after it opened, that beautiful center. So really what the legislature said was, let's make this, put a plan in place that will pay for itself. And we won't be closing it. So I know seniors were upset that they're paying $10 for 2 years now. It was free before. But there were days it was closed, and that's not going to happen. But I will tell you, and I have to thank Tom Banish for this, last year, he saw that there could be an issue here with this Passport Parks. There was concern. And he called a meeting, and he was joined with our Chief of Police, Jack Drum. I remember Jack Drum being pretty tough on the state. State came in, and what they said was, we have concerns about just what happened on 4th of July. We have concerns about that. And the state at that meeting, and there was like 20 of us in the room. It was a big crowd. You know, Deep was there, Department of Environmental Protection. We had our firemen, we had our police. They assured us that, you know, they were going to put extra people on. It wasn't going to happen. Well, I lived down near that section. You saw what happened that day with all the cars and everything. So I think, as your representative, I certainly have to have a conversation with the state because it broke, whatever their plan was, it broke down that day. And I actually think our policemen really stepped up and did an incredible, actually that whole weekend was pretty incredible with what, think about it, a parade, fireworks, and 4th of July. In a concert, it was pretty amazing for a small town. So I just want to get up to tell you that this has been a long time coming. I think our town really did try to prepare. I was very happy with that meeting. I think it was about a year ago. Unfortunately, the state did not do what they said they were going to do, and we've got to work on that. But as far as people coming into our beaches, we're always gonna have that. That is, they have a right to go to our beaches, and we just have to find a way. There's gonna be times we're gonna show up and there's not gonna be a spot there. And unless we buy land to add parking, I don't know what we could do, but I think the town really did try to step up, and this has been such a great meeting. It's been really, I came not knowing what to expect, because I saw what was on Facebook and people were so angry. Instead, what I see is a meeting, a group of people wanting to solve a problem, and I thank both the commission and the selectmen for doing that, because that's what this is all about. We're so lucky. We're so blessed with our beaches, with our facilities. And the idea that we have to share them, we've got to share them. And I think we just have to find a way to make it work for everybody. So, but I just want you to know that what I saw was a town that really did try to make it work. And I think from what I'm hearing today, we're all going to see something better come out of this new plan. Thank you.
Coming up on 2 hours, so unless anybody has something really started with that, well, appreciate it. We go.
Thank you.
Thank you.